This week's blog post is the 9th in my series on the history of outdoor sculpture in New York City. It's on St. Gaudens. A word about this series. This occasional series of blog posts will highlight the most important of the outdoor sculptors in New York City and provide some historical and art historical context. I've given you a link to a tag on my website that will get you to all the posts on New York City sculpture. You can also go to my Instagram account to see photos of all outdoor sculptures in New York City in chronological order. The first 7 posts in this series looked at the subjects of outdoor sculptures. In the first, we saw sculptures of animals and politicians. In the second, we saw our first military and literary heroes. The third post included a list of memorials to the Civil War. And the fourth post, figures who were active before 1800, including founding fathers. The fifth was on businessmen, the sixth was on figures in the arts, and the seventh included allegorical figures through 1918. The next few posts in this series look at sculptors who were famous in New York City and throughout America. Our earliest was John Quincy Adams Ward. With this post we move on to the sculptor who is perhaps America's most famous and is one of my own personal favorites. This post is based on the chapter on St. Gaudens in Artist Entrepreneurs. I've abridged it to focus on works by St. Gaudens in New York City. St. Gaudens, 1848 to 1907, the son of Irish immigrants, worked as a teenager for a cameo cutter while he was taking courses in art at New York's Cooper Union. When he traveled to Europe to study, St. Gaudens supplemented his income by cutting cameos and doing other small commissions. One of those commissions was the Medallions for the Bryant vase by Tiffany and Company, which was displayed at the 1876 Centennial Exhibition in Philadelphia. By the 1870s, when St. Gaudens returned to America, he had a solid knowledge of ancient and modern sculpture, as well as drawing and low-relief carving. St. Gaudens's big break was the Farragut Monument, unveiled in 1880 when he was 32. The larger-than-life-size bronze figure of a Civil War admiral stands on a pedestal 15 feet wide and 7 feet high in New York City's Madison Square. At this time, portrait sculptures were either in the idealized neoclassical style, such as Clinton, or, like those of John Quincy Adams Ward, were meticulously executed but standing stock still. St. Gaudens broke the mold by showing Admiral Farragut as if he stands on the deck of his flagship. His binoculars are in his hand, and the wind is blowing the front edge of his uniform. So we see not just a physical likeness, but something of his character and his actions, what made him a man worthy of a monument. St. Gaudens collaborated with architect Stanford White on the Farragut Monument's pedestal, creating an ensemble rather than merely a figure put up on a box. The pedestal is curved, which invites us closer so that we can see all the curves of it. On either side of the pedestal is a lengthy inscription about Farragut's service to his country. We don't need to read the inscription to identify the figure as a heroic naval officer, but if we do, it adds something to our knowledge of him. The sword and the waves on the pedestal show us that he's a military man at sea. St. Gaudens liked to combine allegorical and real figures to convey more than a portrait alone could. The reliefs on the base are of loyalty and courage, 2 of Farragut's important virtues. Over the next 3 decades, St. Gaudens executed many important commissions. Here we're just going to look at 4 of the most notable. The Puritan for Springfield, Massachusetts, 1887, has become everyone's image of a Puritan or pilgrim. The Lincoln for Chicago, also finished in 1887, has become one of our enduring images of Lincoln. St. Gaudens's Diana hovered atop the original Madison Square Garden in 1891. The Shaw Memorial for Boston Common, 1897, honored the man who led a regiment of African-American troops in the Civil War. Between monumental commissions, St. Gaudens created many exquisite low-relief portraits. The Metropolitan Museum has several, including this one of Cornelius Vanderbilt, one of Robert Louis Stevenson, and one of the children of a man named Schiff. New York City has the Farragut Monument, St. Gaudens' first major work, as well as his last major work. The Sherman Monument, 1903, is a brilliant combination of a meticulously accurate portrait with an allegorical figure. As usual, St. Gaudens planned every detail, including the type of gold used on the surface and the angle at which the sculpture would be positioned on its site to catch the light. Related to the figure of victory that we just saw on the Sherman Monument is the figure on the only coin that was designed by St. Gaudens. President Theodore Roosevelt, declaring that American coinage was in a state of artistically atrocious hideousness, invited America's most famous sculptor to design new gold coins. St. Gaudens's double eagle, a 1-ounce gold piece with a face value of $20, was first issued in 1907. St. Gaudens is an artist of a very high caliber. He develops new themes and he has a distinctive style. As a man, he has an admirable sense of life. He sees the universe as benevolent and man as dignified. In 1897, at age 49, he wrote, quote, "In one of my blue fits the other day, reasoning about the hopelessness of trying to fathom what it all means, I reached this. We know nothing, of course, but a deep conviction came over me, like a flash, that at the bottom of it all, whatever it is, the mystery must be beneficent. It doesn't seem something malevolent. And the thought was a great comfort." End of quote. That's from Wilkinson's biography of St. Gaudens called Uncommon Clay. St. Gaudens didn't pretend to understand the universe, but he thought it was benevolent, and that explains a great deal about the sense of life shown in his sculptures. All his figures are dignified, thoughtful, unafraid. One would expect that of military heroes, such as Farragut and Sherman, but for St. Gaudens it's also true of children, of women, and of men such as Robert Louis Stevenson, who was very ill when St. Gaudens sculpted him. The next up in this series will be Frederick McMonnies. DianeDuranteWriter.com has hundreds of posts on sculpture, painting, architecture, and my other obsessions. To join the free Sunday recommendations email list, visit the URL that's on the screen or email me. And you can say, "Well done, Diane," or support my work and receive rewards by means of the tip jar on DianeDuranteWriter.com. As always, thank you for listening.